Hello and welcome to another episode of High Ground Podcast. And today I have an awesome guest. We've been mutuals for a couple of years now. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about because I don't know, I just think it's a fantastic time to be a fan in Star Wars. Can you introduce yourself? Let people know where we can find your awesome content, and let us know how you got started in Star Wars.
So hi, I'm Chris. I go by Booba Fett on TikTok and Instagram. I post mostly on TikTok. I got started in Star Wars at 3 years old. My brother put on Return of the Jedi because I was being a crazy 3-year-old, and it happened to be like in the middle of it, which was when R2 shoots out Luke Skywalker's lightsaber and he catches it, and that amazing scene is forever burned into my brain. That is my first Star Wars memory, and ever since I was quite literally obsessed. That's just like every year it was like, what do you want for Christmas or birthday? I want Star Wars stuff. My parents had to scour the planet for Star Wars stuff because there wasn't that much. This is like in like the late 80s. There just wasn't a lot to find. And that's just kind of been my thing. They've had to replace multiple VHSs because I watched it all the time. And then I've only started loving it more. Like I just love it more and more the more stuff we get. It is a really good time to be a Star Wars fan for sure. But that's like how I got started into it. Very, very young.
That's awesome. So when I was little, Return of the Jedi was also my favorite too, and I still maintain. I don't know how you feel about this. Empire Strikes Back is my. I mean, I'm the Last Jedi, Empire, um, and then Return of the Jedi. But I still feel like Return of the Jedi gave me the most of the thing I love most about Star Wars, which is you have like the three separate storylines all going on at the same time. All of them get stalled, and then when one breaks through, then the other, and the other, and it's like that rallying cry. Like I love that so much. What's your thing? I guess if there's a specific thing that you love in Star Wars.
Sorry, my brain was like, I don't know, because everything. And we're talking about Return
And
of
if
the
you don't have an
Jedi.
answer, that's fine.
Well, like you said, Return of the Jedi, it's kind of the same thing. I love how there's like layers to it, and it's exciting. Like, I'll still watch Return of the Jedi and feel nervous and excited as things are unfolding at the end of that movie, despite the fact, like I said, like you know it's going to happen. Same thing with Rogue
Yeah.
One, right? How they do that whole Vader scene. It gives me anxiety watching it, despite the fact we know exactly how that scene ends. I love that when I watch Star Wars, especially with some of the new stuff, Ahsoka in particular, I felt like a little kid watching it for the first time.
Yeah.
It was just like, it really feels like Star Wars. And yeah, it's just my happy place. Like, I can go there and turn my brain off and like really enjoy all of the moments. Sure, there's things I don't like about Star Wars, or like that I not there's more things that I do love about it. And I also love watching my kids and how they react to Star Wars. So even the stuff that I might not particularly like Boba Fett with their little motor scooters, essentially. My kids loved it though. So, like that's the magic behind it. And yeah, it's just my magical happy place. I love it.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a scene from the documentary The People versus George Lucas that always plays in my head, and it's like there's just this dad who loves Star Wars, loves the original trilogy, and that whole video was just absolute hatred of the prequels, in which we all kind of grew up during. And his little kid walks over and grabs the DVD for The Phantom Menace because he wants to put it on, and the dad is physically distraught. But he's like, all right. It makes me happy to see how it's a generational thing. And
Yeah.
even if it's something you don't like, someone else loves that thing, and that's okay. Star Wars is weird. There's a 50s themed diner in the middle of Coruscant, and you know what I mean? Like it's wild. And then one of the other like themes I just love is that it's always the simplest and smallest creatures that end up being the turning point of the galaxy, of whatever the conflict is. The people that you overlook, a droid that you thought was insignificant that someone paid attention to, and now we got Basil, who
I
I'm
love him.
theorizing is the actual Sith Lord here.
Darth Basil.
You can't tell me you won't get chills if all of a sudden he like pulls out a double-bladed lightsaber and he's like,
Such a surprise.
but yeah, let's talk about Acolyte episode 6, and also how are you enjoying the series so far, and what are you thinking of episode 6? What popped up for you?
So I'm definitely enjoying the series so far. I do think that it started off a little slow, but that's intentional. That's very obviously that was intentional. I do like that it makes me really sit and think about the clues it's given us. And because Star Wars is known sometimes for red herrings, I have to really sit there. I'm like, ooh,
Yes.
is my initial reaction accurate or am I missing something? Episode 6, I think it's interesting. A lot of people have mixed feelings about it. I really liked it because there was so much exposition and so many clues dropped in that episode. I actually had to go back and watch twice, but that's also because Leslie fed the dark side girlies well that episode. I didn't expect to be like the whole time. I'd be like, I need to pay attention to what's happening, and I can't. And that's also the point, though, is I had mentioned before that he has very biblical Lucifer vibes. He's supposed to be seductive because the dark side is, and
Yeah.
and I think it was either you or one other creator pointed out too his changing of his clothes, which was very intentional from dark clothing to light clothing, to kind of shift your perspective on him. Female haze aside, because they did a really good job.
He literally walks in there with the male gaze of just like, the dark clothes with just bicep like flexing, and then he comes out and then like slips on the female gaze. You're like,
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Actually, I
Yes.
loved how they did that. Plus, he drops so many like innuendo like lines, but they're never lecherous. It's always just like, if you're not going to join me, then at least let me get my clothes on. And he just like, walks out, showing off.
Yes.
But he doesn't do it in a way that's overtly flirtatious. But
Right.
it's like, but it's out there. Yeah. But sorry, keep going.
Yeah. No. And it makes you also question yourself how you view this character, because obviously the last episode he killed a child. Like, it's very brutal, very dark sided. However, we also seen that it's potential that he also uses the light side. So not that he's a gray character, because not a gray Jedi don't exist, but like there's definitely something about him that he just wants the freedom in using the Force. He's a really interesting character in my opinion. In fact, he might be my favorite villain we've had in ages because he is complicated. It's not straightforward. Like, Darth Maul's very straightforward. While his story is really great and complicated, it's still very. This one is a little not confusing, but
Yeah,
there's layers.
Darth Maul is just angry theater kid.
Yeah. And Qimir / the Stranger, because we're not sure if Qimir is his real name or not. They gave us lots of clues in this last episode, in particular that he was a former Jedi. The scars on his back are very whip-like looking for Nestra. So, and I still think Soul has something to do. We already know that Soul has done something bad on Brandoc. And I'm wondering if Soul doesn't have something to do with Qimir. I'm going to call him Qimir because it's easier than the Stranger. Because he does say that line in episode 5 where he says, "You don't recognize me." And at first I thought it was, because they already saw it on the other planet when he was quirky kind. And then I was thinking, the way he said it was a little bit more meaningful. So maybe it's from when he was a Padawan or whatever it might be. But there was a lot of subtext and a lot of exposition in this episode that I think some people might have missed because the last episode was so flashbangy. That's why I went back and watched it again, because I definitely missed some stuff. Also, I want to point out that the Cortosis cave is rad. And also, that is...
Yeah.
It's somewhere in my head that I know that there is a Cortosis cave, and I don't remember what it's from, but that was a deep lore pool. And I love that. I love that we got the Cortosis cave, and that she puts the helmet on at the end, but we don't get to see what she sees yet. And it's kind of scary, because she can't see anything, and then it slowly kind of starts to open where she can see things. I don't know. I thought it was a really good episode. From a filmmaking point of view, no, it wasn't very flashy, but it was very well done.
For me, it's exactly what we need. Like, after we have, I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. We have big flashy battles, those are when two opposing ideologies meet and they clash. And then at the end of it, there is some sort of reconciliation and some sort of shifting of a perspective post-battle, and you have to have that after-battle conversation so that you can find out where all the pieces are laying now, And I've especially loved it because I'm a big anime fan. I loved Naruto, and Qimir is just Obito. He's Obito. He's at the beginning he's Toby, where he's acting silly and like laughing and all this stuff, and then he switches into Obito and he like seems really tough, but he's really just like a hurt child somewhere deep in there. And the way this episode begins is exactly like after Sasuke and Itachi fought, and then Sasuke wakes up and he's in the dark cave, and then Obito's there to explain what just went on. If it was the same, that's what I wanted. So I feel like I largely got that. But Leslie Headland talked about it as, because we kept talking about it like the girls switching spots, but she was talking about it like a switching of the mentors, which is like, that's
Yeah.
a different perspective to put on it. And I also love how she's like, I'm not as easy to corrupt as my sister. And then 10 minutes later, you're like, okay, all right, we'll see how well you do.
Really
There's
hard
just a lot.
the Riz on that one too. And I kind of cackled a little bit when he was like, I made a mistake with man. I was like, was it not showing your face? Because that might have been your first mistake.
I mean, she didn't know that whole time, and I'm sure she had that Squidward moment of, oh no.
Oh, he's hot. We all did, man. That, just to be fair, all of us were, because I'm very much like, don't fall in love with the space posse, but I was like, no, he's hot.
I'm about as straight as they come, but ain't nobody that straight,
He's got mega Riz going on for sure. Which is the point again. Like, this dark side is supposed to be stuffed in, and sometimes that means like literally, and that's what he's doing. And I do like also, it's a line that I think some people may have missed, but she says, "I don't trust you," and he's like, "Nor should you." And he's very matter of fact about it, and he's right. I mean, you probably shouldn't, but also that it's almost like reverse psychology, because you're like, oh, maybe I should trust you a little more. And honestly, compared to the two characters we had, I've had my feelings about Soul since episode 1, and I got made fun of for it. But like, he's on. There's something he gives me Elzar vibes if Elzar had fully given in those first 3 books. That's as far as I've gotten. By the way, and instead of feeling guilty and like genuinely trying to bring himself back to the light side, it feels like Soul is just constantly battling it though, to a point where, yeah, I feel like we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out very soon. And the way he's been acting very shady about turning off the comms and all that stuff on the ship and being alone with May is interesting to find. There's gonna be something there, and I've had a hunch too that maybe May and Osha may have been Osha that started the fire, and somehow their memories got crossed. I have no idea if that's true or not, but there's something there that probably actually involved Osha more so than May. Because it's so easy to blame May because of how petulant she seemed in the earlier episodes, and I don't know if that's true, especially since Qimir can sense in Osha. She's got some fire in there that could easily be given to the dark side. He knows that. That's why when he met her, when she tried to pretend she was May, he was like, wait a second. So
yeah. I'm calling. Do you have any predictions on what exactly happened in the past that you want to make public first?
Most of the stuff that I called out kind of happened already, but we already know that from the trailers that Kelnaka, excuse me, goes after Torben. We know this because there's literally a scene of him flying in the air and going after Torben. One of my predictions was that either Mother Anastasia, or like one of the other witches mind controls Kelnaka, obviously, to go after Torben. I don't think he would just do that. Unless Torben did something on his own that Kelnaka was like, hey, no. So there's something there that probably has to do with mind control, but I don't know if that is going to be the witches or if it's going to be Soul or Adara. I don't trust Adara either, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's also just Carrie-Anne Moss's like vibe. Like, she gives me like not good intentions for sure. That whole scene, like when they're on Brandoc, it rubbed me the wrong way, because it is that full like they're coming in real hot to try to take these kids, and as a mom, I'm like, hell no. And I've already talked to you about how like but like.
No, I loved that they actually portrayed Mother Anastasia as loving her kids. Like they could very easily portray her as a wicked stepmom vibes, where they are doing the heroic thing by trying to save these kids. But no, I love how they muddied the waters, because we don't know what they were actually after. And also, we still don't have a full explanation of why the Jedi were there in the first place. I believe they were absolutely hunting down this dark side group because they knew that they were trying to do something. But we'll definitely have to get to that. My prediction, just outright, is someone starts controlling one of them. and the Jedi don't know who is the source of taking control. And I think Soul strikes down Mother Anastasia, thinking that it was her. And I think in like Mother Anastasia's last moments, she's not mad at him, but she's like, save Osha. And now he has this like horror in him because he feels like he has to honor this last wish, but he was also the person that took the mother away from these kids. I also think he had a chance to save May, and knew that if he saved May, Osha would have a lot more trouble like becoming a Jedi and doing that thing. And so he chose to let her to her fate and took off. And
Or
so I think
pushed her.
that's why he has
Or pushed
uh,
her. Because
I
he
maybe
physically caught Osha, and I thought about this last night in the shower of all places. Because that's where I do a lot of my thinking. Because he physically caught Osha instead of using the Force to do so, as we saw earlier he obviously could do and Jedi can do. But we don't see where Meg falls, and I was like, what if he pushed her? Like, what if she was like trying to get up and he was like, just a little nudge because he was physically holding on to Osha? I hope that's not what he did, but like, I have really negative feelings about Soul, which sucks because I love that actor a lot, and like, I can when he's like when you can see the goodness in him, he's such a likable character, but there's just a layer there that's just nasty, and I don't trust it.
that's one of the things I love about because we've seen the kindness and we've seen the love and stuff in his eyes and in his heart, but this episode he was pretty cold. And we see him when he's at the end, he straps her down to the chair and he was very matter of fact. And we didn't get the same warmth that we've been seeing this entire time. And it's going to be interesting to see how that that juxtaposition there, because all the warmth and all the touch and all the stuff that Osha's been craving is what the dark side person has been giving to her. And I also love this expansion of the Force because of what we got in the Mandalorian, where you know um, Ahsoka is talking about Grogu and saying that his abilities had kind of had faded over time because he hasn't been using them. Well, in this one, we get that's the Jedi's philosophy, but there's another way. Kymer's just such an interesting character, and he's also giving off a lot of Yoda vibes. When he when he talks about putting on the mask and it being sensory deprivation, and he says it's just you and the Force and what you bring with you, right? That's exactly what Yoda said about the dark side cave on Dagobah. And
Really, what you take
what
with you.
exactly is she bringing? Yeah. What is she bringing with her into that map? That was such a perfect way to end the episode
It
as well.
was.
But they made use of their time, I think.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. And I was back to the Soul, too, thinking about Vernestra when, is it, and I'm assuming that's her Padawan. It was insinuated that the guy that was with her might have been, had said, why would Master Soul do this? Or kind of insinuating that it was Master Soul who killed his team. And she said that's a big accusation, but she also had a moment of like, oh crap, maybe it was. You could see it in her face. And that's also highlighting, okay, what happened on Brandoc and how involved was Soul in the bad things that happened there, which I mean, it's being telegraphed to us that it was a big hint. It's not it's him not being the biggest catalyst of it. It was interesting that Vanessa reacted the way she did to that statement because it wasn't just a solid like I'm
Yeah.
going to defend Soul. It was like, I hate that maybe it might be. And obviously we know it wasn't. It was Qimir who did it, but still, it's takes you back to Brandoc. What happened there? Which, of course, in the end, we will find out what happened. And I still think the hunch of them, the twins being created, everyone losing their minds, over it being with the Force, which it still could be. That still could be how they were created. I'm still inclined to believe it was something else, and that's why the Jedi were there checking it out. And if it ends up being cloning or something, it also ties into the universe because, as we know, it's the Clone Wars and Emperor Palpatine wanted to be cloned and all that stuff. Yeah, they did not explain why the Jedi were there.
Machine.
So, yes,
there's a big giant machine under there that we haven't talked about. And I listen. I do believe they were trying to do some type of to using the machine and the dark side to create force sensitives, which is also nothing new
right.
to Legends or canon. looking at you, Joris, Sabayoth, and Luke.
Oh, God.
Jesus.
They both get so upset about like EU lore, and then they're literally putting EU lore into that's congruent EU lore, and they're still getting mad about it. I'm like, but it is though. You're saying they're so mad about like it's breaking lore, but it's not. She's pulling directly from deep lore, because Cortosis is pretty deep lore, by the way. She knows what she's doing, and she does understand and know Star Wars.
Absolutely. What we're getting right now is exactly what happens when a fan of Star Wars is making Star Wars, and we get deep cuts, we get cell casts, working the stuff, and like, yeah, she's a massive Coder fan, and that comes through in everything she does.
Yeah.
I was gonna say though with Vernestra, so in the book Test of Courage, her Padawan at that time was Emery, which is what her ship is actually named after, that we find out. But her Padawan falls to the dark side, and she has to fight him in order to kind of wake him out of it, and she helps him through that, right? And then, later in the High Republic, we know Elzar is a habitual line stepper, so she has problems with him, and I'm theorizing that if Qimir was at one point her Padawan, maybe he started to fall as well, in either fighting him or saving someone else. She had to whip him up a little bit,
Those scars are pretty. There's no coincidence they showed her using her light whip and then showing those scars. I feel like that's
in the same episode. Absolutely. Yeah. That was absolutely telling us something. But it wouldn't make sense if let's say if Soul had done something pretty dark in the past, but has been making his atonement for it. Before they went on this adventure, she was like, "You're too close to this, right? You have too much attachment. You should not go on this mission. There should be someone else." And he convinces her to go. And I truly think that given those circumstances, she could believe that he fell, but she also knows, she's seen it enough to that's going to be the automatic assumption. I also feel like this episode had a lot of direct answers because they knew exactly what the fanboys would be mad at.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those things were directly addressed in dialogue,
yes.
I just thought that was funny. So what are you expecting going forward? What are we getting in the next episode?
I mean, besides some of the predictions I think we both have agreed on, like the end, I really don't have like a solid one because there's so many different directions it could go. I think that Osha will be the one that might be easier to manipulate into the dark side, or that she would fall into it easier than May would. Because May's reasoning for wanting to, align with Qimir originally was because she wanted revenge. And that's always like the tale's oldest time why people, fall to the dark side or become the villain is because they want revenge. Osha, at least for the moment, has no reason for revenge because her sister's alive and she doesn't have any really...
Mm-hmm.
She has questions, I'm sure, about what happened on Brandoc, but not to the way that May does. Also, it was really frustrating that we were so close to finding out because someone almost said. And then he was like, wait a second. No, I can't tell you.
That's the one trope. I hate that trope so many times, so much of like, listen, let me tell you the most important thing for you to hear right now. But after we do this.
Yeah, which is very anime also.
Yeah.
Let's take 7 episodes to get to the point, which, she knows, but Leslie knows what she's doing, and there's going to be a reason for everything in the pacing the way that it is.
I trust her, but I will be mad if I don't get it in the next episode.
Yeah, a friend and I were talking about that. We're like, just get to the point. I don't need 2 episodes of Goku powering 8. Just go Super Saiyan already. Yeah, I think that Qimir is going to be even more interesting than we... I mean, he already appears to be very interesting, but I think there's going to be a much deeper story there. That's going to be... He's going to become, I think, a more sympathetic character than he's already alluding to with his scars and things. I think that also he is definitely not the master. There is probably a higher master somewhere, and who that is, who knows? I mean, a lot of people are thinking it's Plagueis. I don't know if that... It would make sense, but I don't know if they're ready to make that big of a leap yet with that. I don't think he is Plagueis.
Yeah. See, I was thinking more of I mean, I'm still leaning more towards Tenebris, because Tenebris was more like tech oriented, and mostly just because of the big machine that the witches had. And I was thinking he could be something like a because in the Plagueis book there was someone named Animus who shows up to like fight, and he's like, "I'm the apprentice," and then Plagueis is like, "Who the hell are you?" And it was he's like a backup apprentice that Tenebris was like working with, who like after Tenebris died, um, just claimed the Darth title by himself, and then Plagueis killed him, and then used him for experiments and brought him back to life and killed him over and over and over again. He was a kind of a messed up dude. Anyways, I'm thinking it could be something like that, where he was the apprentice to a master, a Tenebris or something like that, and then just left, because the Sith are way stricter than the Jedi. Like if you like disobey enough, they kill you.
Yes, yeah.
Versus the Jedi who like give you a slap on the wrist regardless of what you do and how bad it was. Still bugs me when who was it? Was that Kip Duran in the Sun Crusher who like destroys a whole like galaxy and then comes back and then Luke's like, "It's okay, buddy." There are people. Jesus.
Genocide, man, but I don't think you should just say it's okay. Consequences for this.
But yeah, I feel like he's probably someone that was like felt too restricted by the Jedi, dipped into the dark side, found a master, found out this is worse. I need to do something on my own, and this is what he's doing. And we are going to get the actual Sith Lord to come and do some cleanup. Eventually, what we'll get.
Which is why I'm thinking that if they make him more of a sympathetic character, and he ends up, I don't know if he'll die or not. But like if his former master comes looking for him, it will not be a fun day for anybody involved in that one. If that's what happens.
But yeah, I mean, any final thoughts on the Acolyte, or just any final closing thoughts on the Acolyte kind of portion?
I really enjoying the show. I like that it's a slow burn. That was probably one of my favorite duels, or not duels, but battles. Yeah. It was really well choreographed. It told the whole story as it was happening. That was a really good episode. And I'm just really enjoying having someone like Leslie behind as a fan and as a woman, like having that sort of visuals and ideas behind it, I think is refreshing. And also, I love High Republic, so I'm a little biased, and I just love that era and seeing it. I'm curious to see where it goes. I'm unsure, and I like that I'm unsure. There's some really cool stuff there, but I also like that I'm really not too sure about everything.
And I can tell you straight up, like the way Qimir and was interacting with May, or with Osha, we wouldn't have gotten that with a male director or writer on the show. It's just no way. Okay, so moving outside of the Acolyte, what other things are you interested in? You've alluded to anime, just general nerd stuff. Well, what else are you into?
So I game a lot. The amount of games that I'm able to play is impacted by the fact that I have kids. So I can't really start a lot of new games right now. But I do spend about an hour or two a night playing games, usually with my friends. Right now, Helldivers is the one I'm deep into, and Dead by Daylight. I play a lot of mobile games. Good Pizza, Great Pizza. I love that game. If you haven't played it, it's really addicting. It's nice. It's fun. It also gets your brain going. I used to be really into anime. I kind of fell off that a little while ago just because there's so much to keep up on. Again, like I try to dedicate my time to Star Wars and Marvel and Game of Thrones fandoms, like House of Dragon and stuff. I try to watch things when I'm able to, but anime has been so far back on the priority list. I used to paint miniatures, and I'm trying to get back into it again. I had a 40k army. I had an Eldar army. And I love that hobby. It's really fun. In the meantime, I started coloring books, which sounds really silly, but like it's really technical. And I've gotten really good at my skill
all the time.
It's so fun. And I get the simple coloring books so I can practice my shading and like using all different kinds of multimedia things on it. And I could do it with my kid, which is nice, my 6-year-old, because she loves to color. And other than that, I mean, my life is pretty much being a mom right now. And that's okay. And I'm also a military spouse, so it's like I am full-time parenting a lot because my husband's gone a lot. But yeah, those are kind of my main things I'm interested in. And also, if you see my TikToks, it is mostly Star Wars. But I do talk a lot about neurodivergence because I'm ADHD and I have autism. And I like talking about that a lot as a female and also somebody who discovered they had autism later in life. And then I talk about a lot of, it's kind of a chaos goblin page. I talk about a lot of stuff and a lot of social issues and like things that are going on. Like I try to be more vocal about that now. It's hard for me because I get really nervous about it, but I do try to stand up for things that I think are right. It's kind of emotional. That's what I do.
No, it's awesome because pretty much all of those things hit dead center for me as well. I definitely have been impacted by ADHD my entire life, but it's interesting how it impacts different people, or how social conditioning makes certain things more or less obvious depending on the circumstances. And then the only thing that I don't do is I haven't gotten into 40K, and I don't plan to, because everyone I know who has, it's just taken over. Like it.
It will. It will. And also the fandom, I mean, but we're used to pretty toxic fans. The 40K fandom can be pretty rough, unfortunately, which is one of the reasons why I didn't play competitively when I got older. It was just you want to see people in it. There's a lot of good people too. It's just I like the painting. I like the painting aspect of it more than anything else. So I'll buy figures that I like, not based on their point value, but because it's a pretty figure and I want to paint it. So you can
Yeah.
always do that too. It's like if you want to learn how to paint, like painting figures is fun. And you can always do 40K like the video game instead, so you don't have to deal with the fandom directly.
Yeah. I remember very recently people being mad that there was like a female space marine or something like that. And
People have been modding female space marines, by the way, since I was in high school. So that's been like 30. Come on, like it's been a thing for a while. But yeah, people can be. It's rough. It's like the negative Star Wars fans on steroids. It's a little bit worse, but we're kind of used to it. I think as Star Wars creators.
no, that's cool though. That's cool. I didn't realize how deep your geekdom went. I will say, and I've been saying this on a lot of these videos, you gotta join us in watching Kaiju number 8, because it is a fantastic show. So it's an anime, but you don't normally get anime with a protagonist who's in their early 30s. So it's kind of a refreshing take, because he's a character who very much feels like he missed his opportunity to do the thing that he wants, and in the end it's like, screw it, I'm doing it anyways. And then you're rooting for him, and he's just like, they all call him old guy, and he's silly, and it's just a really really good show. And I think the season just ended, and it's only um 12 episodes
Awesome.
right now, so
It worked.
definitely something you can
Where's it
cut
streaming?
that out. It's on Crunchyroll.
Okay.
And the
Oh, as most
animation
animes.
on it is great. Animation on it's great. Humor on it's fantastic. Action on it also fantastic. So
I
highly
may have to do
recommend.
that.
And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'm one episode behind on House of the Dragon, but it
Me
has
too.
been
Same.
fantastic so far.
Yes.
It's just such a good time to be a geek. Like
It is.
there's too much stuff, and it's one of the things I just like. I feel I can't iterate enough to geek culture, geek fandom in general, is like, there is so much amazing content for us right now that if you don't like a show, don't watch it. Go
Yeah.
do one of the other things.
There's
it's
so
not
much.
it's
We're
not hard.
saturated with it in a good way. There's enough for everybody and every taste. I mean, it just really is.
So if you could greenlight the next Star Wars project, and you could choose, whatever it's going to be, whatever medium it's going to be, whether it's a game, whether it's a movie or show, whatever, what would you make?
Man, like if I was given creative control over something, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I would
You
probably,
you get to commission any company in the world to do whatever to make a new Star Wars project.
So immediately I thought most of Rogue Squadron because when I did read books, like Wedge Antilles is one of my favorite side characters. He's not a side character in those. And I got to get to know like all these
Yeah.
Rebel pilots. That's why I love Rebel pilots and a thing for them. It's getting to know all those characters. And when we got told we were going to get a Rogue Squadron movie, and then that's kind of like put on the shelf, is heartbreaking for me. That was the one project I was looking forward to the most. I would probably do something with that, whether it be a massive video game that's more open world than the stuff we've gotten so far with pilots. Like, it's like we haven't really got something like Fallen Order, but with like pilots would be fun, or a movie or a TV show. I just don't know. I don't know which I would do. But something with Rogue Squadron. I really love getting in the nitty gritty of the Rebel Alliance and like especially the pilots, because just like in real life, many pilots have a specific type of attitude, and it would just be really fun. And it's why I like Battlestar Galactica too, and Starbucks and Mike's ever, is because pilots like that. We got a little bit of what we could have gotten with the Rogue Squadron with the Viper pilots and Battlestar Galactica, something like that. We have a lot of Jedi, which is great.
Yeah.
A lot of laser swords. I want the pilots.
I honestly, Rogue Squadron as it is would be a phenomenal video game series because yes, they're pilots, but they're also half spies as well, and they're secret agent pilots. you know,
It would be
um,
so fun. There's so much you could do with that, really.
there are rereading those books now. There's a lot of weird. There's a little bit of
Oh
weird
yeah,
stuff. They're very very 90s, but we're also surprisingly
100%.
progressive. Have you read Alphabet Squadron?
I have not yet. I am so far behind
Okay.
in Star Wars books. I'm trying because I read a lot of audiobooks. And I'm trying to the Thrawn book, the first one I read, I needed to put Star Wars away for a while because that book was a little bit I wasn't a huge fan of it. Everything that I liked about it, but I was like, the book is honestly kind of boring. So I need to go back to books that I am interested in, like High Republic, and like it's overwhelming too. There's a lot of canon books where I'm like, I don't even know where to start. So I may start maybe with Alphabet Squadron again and trying to go through because I do like that genre.
Alphabet Squadron. So I will say I felt like the second book was a little dry, but the third book was so good, and the stuff that was set up from the second book is it's like it might be my favorite like trilogy of books.
Okay.
It wraps up so much stuff and can plus if you play Battlefront 2 or if you play like it pulls all of the uh, is you find out where she was at the battle of Jakku.
Okay.
I mean she's flying a reclaimed Star Destroyer, and like there's epic stuff in that book series. So I'm gonna highly recommend, especially if you love pilots,
Yeah.
like I do. And the character work in those books is probably better than I feel just about any other series. So yeah, definitely check that out. But yeah, I think that's it. I think we kind of covered everything. Is there anything you think is there anything else that you want people to know about you or your content or anything you want to say to the fandom in general?
Be good to each other and stand up for stuff that you see that you know is bad. It's hard sometimes to speak up for other people when you see them getting bullied or saying really ugly stuff, but you should, um, if you're able to do so. Just try not to let anyone who is being really negative dull your enjoyment. I've been seeing a lot of comments recently about how the fandom has just ruined their ability to enjoy Star Wars anymore, and I get it. I'm not saying to tune it out because that's hard, but you shouldn't let somebody else's negativity impact what you love about this fandom. And yeah, and if you do follow me, just be aware that I'm a Chaos Goblin. I'm not always consistent with the stuff that I post, because I post only what I really want to. I don't sit there and try to make myself post something every day. But sometimes I'll make a lot of stuff, and then sometimes I go like about a week or two that I'm making videos. Um, yeah, I love this fandom a lot. I love all of the people that I've met, especially on TikTok. It's been really rewarding, especially now that I'm 40. It's not harder to make friends the older you get. And it's really
Yeah.
nice finding a community. Like, I wish I could go back in time and tell little kid me that I would find such an awesome Star Wars community. Yeah, that's fair.
And for anyone watching or listening, yes, the people who enjoy Star Wars, who it's not about being positive, it's about not being a dick. But they are the best people of any fandom that you'll meet. We recently had people from literally all walks of life. Not all of us like the same things or agree on the same things, but we had so many people there from different countries and stuff, all hanging out, vibing, and just having a blast with each other. And it's like I feel like this is the only place where we could really do that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you jumping on and talking. We'll
Thanks for
definitely have
inviting
more
me.
conversations in the future.
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
It's fun.
All right. And so, one last time, where can people find you?
So on TikTok, Booba Fett, and then Instagram, I believe it's Booba Fett 83. But I do have that link on my profile on TikTok, so it'd be easy to find me that way.
All right, perfect. And for everyone else, may the force be with you always.